Hello, everyone. You're listening to Michelle Speaks on 180radionow.com, currently heard in over 128 countries around the world. And I'm your host, Michelle Portier, founder of Healing Women, Healing Nations of Northeast Florida. We live in a society that condones living behind masks, hiding who we are and the issues we face, some too taboo to discuss with anyone. You may be worried about being judged or ashamed of what others may be thinking of you. Michelle Speaks not only uncovers it, but we look for solutions to deal with it head on. Stay tuned as we get to the heart of the matter, because if you hide it, you can't heal it. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to your fastest growing talk show on radio, Michelle Speaks, with yours truly as your host, Michelle Portier. You know that on this show, no topic is taboo. So we're going to pull the covers off of everything that is hindering you from healing and growing, because if you hide it, you can't heal it. We're continuing our series on military sexual trauma, speaking from different perspectives, allowing female veterans that have served to share the impact military sexual trauma has had on their lives. And today this evening I have with me the very illustrious Miss Shonda Roberts. But before we get into it, I just want to give you a little bit more of the backstory regarding military sexual trauma. Military sexual trauma is the term that the Department of Veteran Affairs uses to refer to sexual assault or repeated threatening sexual harassment that occurred while the veteran was in the military. It includes any sexual activity in which one is involved against one's will. He or she may have been pressured into sexual activities, for example, with threats of negative consequences for refusing to be sexually cooperative, or with implied faster promotions or better treatment in exchange for sex. They may have been unable to consent to sexual activities, for example, when intoxicated, or may have been physically forced into sexual activities. Other experiences that fall into the category of military sexual trauma include unwanted sexual touching or grabbing, threatening, offensive remarks about a person's body or sexual activities, and or threatening or unwelcome sexual advances. So as we continue with this series, continuing the conversation about military sexual trauma, we are going to get to the heart of the matter. We are going to share how it has impacted the lives of our female veterans during the event, after the event, and how we as a community, as well as the Veteran Administration and the military, can better help assist our female veterans reclaim their lives. So again, Miss Shonda Roberts, I want to thank you so much for agreeing to come on and share about this very sensitive topic. I want to thank you for traveling all the way from Daytona, Orlando, to come and share. So again, Shonda, I want you to share with my listening audience, who is Shonda Roberts personally, professionally, and spiritually?
Good morning. How everybody's doing today? Thank you so much, Michelle, for inviting me. It's such a pleasure.
My honor.
Thank you again. Mm-hmm. So who is Shonda Roberts personally? I'm fun. I'm full of energy.
Yes, she is.
I'm exciting. I have drive out of this world, and a lot of people be like, "How do you do it?" Mm-hmm. None but God. But professionally, I'm still active in the military.
Thank you for your continued service.
Thank you. About to be 14 years, and I'm a business owner. I started my own makeup line for sexual assault victims, mm-hmm. and professional CEO. I mean, I can keep going on and on about myself.
Right.
But we're going to stop right there.
Okay, so spiritually?
Spiritually, I'm a God-fearing woman, and
Amen.
I couldn't keep walking if it wasn't for him.
Amen. Well, there you have it for my listening audience. This is just a tidbit about Shonda. We're going to hear more about her as we continue. I just want to share that Shonda is a dear friend of mine, a dear sister. I met her a couple of years ago at an entrepreneurship training for veterans. And Shonda, she just took over the room, with her brightness and her joy. And I guess she just determined in her mind that she was going to make me her friend, because those that know me know that I'm kind of quiet and kind of reserved, and she just barreled right through that. And she's been a dear friend over the years, even reached out to me when I had kind of gone off the radar from her. Kind of gave me the business, and then we were okay. So you're in for a treat. So we're going to dive right into it. Before we came on air, you were sharing a little bit beforehand about your experience being assaulted sexually. And I just wanted you to kind of share with us that experience. And it's okay, if you get a little bit emotional. For those that are listening that may be triggered, I pray that you have someone that you can reach out to help walk you through that process.
Well, with my experience, it was a different experience that you can't even fathom. The perpetrators that sexually assaulted me were found not guilty. Although there was a videotape and evidence, one of the things that we all collaborated after we got the results is that female jurors are very harder on other females. So that being said, no one understood why that I walked out with my head high. And the only thing I could come up with was God is giving them a second chance at their lives.
So even when they violated you in the most horrendous way, you were able to find forgiveness.
Yes.
So let me ask you a question. From the time that you were assaulted to the time that they were prosecuted or taken to be prosecuted, how long did it take you to go from being, were you ever angry? Were you angry initially when it happened? Were you scared? I mean, what were the emotions? What were the things that were going through your mind?
Well, one of the things was I was very scared because you think that people are your friends, but when something so traumatic happens, no one's there. I ended up leaving the state and going to another state, and they found me there too. It was crazy.
When you say they?
The perpetrators. And they were still in jail, but their families, they wanted to talk to me. They wanted me to drop the charges. So I ended up leaving and moving to a different state. That being said, I felt like I was on an island all alone. And it was a new beginning for me because I didn't know anybody there.
Right.
And, going through grad school, I met another young lady named Michelle.
Michelles are awesome.
Yes, they are.
People.
So she was my backbone at that time, and she kind of felt overwhelmed in the beginning because I told her everything that was going on and what she was getting herself into.
Right.
So she signed up and she's committed, and we're still friends up until this day. But throughout the process, it was a lot of people that befriended me there in that state that I never knew. But in the end, they were all working with the perpetrators. It's like they followed me from one state to another.
Wow. So they befriended you to try to attempt to persuade you.
Church folks and all.
Wow. So, again, what was that time frame initially from when the incident occurred to the time that they were brought to
justice?
Yeah.
Well, what they consider justice?
Right.
10 years.
10 years.
10 years of my life.
So for 10 years you carried that.
Yes.
And how did that impact your life?
Well, since the incident happened on my birthday, it was very hard. It took me a while. I would say about 3-4 years. I would always celebrate my birthday prior to my birthday.
Okay.
And in that time when my birthday did come, I was very withdrawal, and I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to be bothered. I just was dealing with it. I rarely went to counseling for it because I'm strong, and that's what the Army teaches us. You're strong, just drive on, drink water and drive on.
Right.
So I deal with it internally, and it would come out at inappropriate times.
Such as?
Like me and my girlfriends could be having movie night or a girls' day, and sometimes I would break down, and they wouldn't know why. And when they asked me why, I was just like, I'm okay. And
knowing that you're not, but you do what we do as women, we put on that mask.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, one of my dearest friends, Felisa, she suggested, she was like, Shonda, this is getting bad. You need to go to counseling. One of the roles that I have in the military is a SHARP representative. So we deal with a victim's advocate.
Gotcha.
And during that time, it was my birthday time when we're going to training, because anytime that we're doing military training, it's always during my birthday time.
Right.
And thank God that she was there, and I did very well throughout the class. I didn't break down during, but it was after.
Right.
And I really appreciate her. So that was like a delivery for me that, okay, this happened on my birthday, but look what you're doing now for these soldiers in the military.
Right.
During.
So something that you had associated your birthday with something horrendous that happened for a period of 10 years, you were now able to replace that dark memory with something positive.
Absolutely.
Wow. So, being that you carried that for all these years, when you say that you dealt with it, what did that look like for you?
No one knows. No one knew the hell which I lived. One of the things that I'm very, very good at is putting on. If you know anything about me, I'm like a comedian on stage.
Right.
So it's like when the comedian go out on stage, no one knows what they're going through. They're put there to make you laugh. And that's what I did for all these years. I hid it very well. I developed a detachment disorder from people. Okay. But you would have never known that I had this detachment order. Okay. So one of the things that I used to do was if I got close to you, I would find a reason for us not to be close. Whether it's...
So you would sabotage the relationship?
Yes.
Okay.
But they didn't know.
Right. And that's what I wanted to bring out too. I want, for my listening audience, we want you to get a clear picture of how sexual trauma affects our female veterans. You may think that we are okay. You may tell us to suck it up and move on, but we actually are not. We are just finding ways to coping mechanisms and unhealthy coping mechanisms. And one of the ways we do that is to sabotage our relationships. And so tell us how else, what that looked like, what you dealing with it internally. How did it affect you physically? I know we've talked before, and I know you shared with me there was an instant where you suffered a heart attack?
No, a stroke.
A stroke? Okay.
I was the youngest patient in the VA in history. They didn't know what to do with me.
How old were you?
26. 26, I think. I don't remember. That's one of the things that I'm suffering from now is memory loss. Right. If you go to my house, I got boards, dry erase boards. You've been there. Yeah. Everywhere, colored, coded, everything. Right. So I was at drill one day, and of course Felisa was there, and I had this look on my face, and she goes, "Shonda, quit playing." And I was like, no, something's wrong with me today. I'm not playing. And then one of the other sergeants said, this is funny. He goes, is your weave too tight? Right. And I was like, no, that's not it either. So They took me to the closest pharmacy. I think it was Walgreens or CVS. My blood pressure was 132 over 101. And I didn't look fine, but I kept saying I was fine. And she was the pharmacist said, you guys need to take her to the emergency room. She's about to have a stroke. And I was like, with my mouth twisted, I was like, I'm not about to have no stroke. She was like, you can't even really talk.
Right.
So one of the things that really, really, really bothered us is that when we went to the VA, they had me sitting in the waiting room for over 30 minutes. Now I'm shaking. I felt numbness on my right side. And they told, she was Sergeant Sterling at the time, they said, Sergeant Sterling, well, we need a release from your unit. She said, God dang, Mitt.
Right.
Release, look at her.
Right.
So they had me in, then they moved me from sitting to in the hallway on a bed in the waiting room. A young lady came over, didn't remember her name. She took my blood pressure again, and it was skyrocketing. It was going higher and higher and higher. So they still hadn't got the release, but she felt that it was a fiduciary duty for her to say, we got to do something.
Right.
So at that time, I was placed in a waiting room, and I remember taking a aspirin, and they start giving me an IV because they said they had to bring my blood pressure down because it can cause later damage to my brain. So that all in said, I spent probably over a week or two in the VA. A couple people from the unit came to visit me, and then that's when I realized is that sometimes people that's not born in your family are your family.
Right.
And, you know, being in the military, that's one thing they said, we're your family away from your family. So I got a lot of support. I don't know if it was genuine or it was their job because of their rank.
Right, but it was support.
It was support.
Right.
Right.
And so I wanted to bring that out because you said earlier that you internalized it and that's how you dealt with it. And when we attempt to deal with traumatic events such as that internally, it's going to manifest itself in some way, shape, or form. And so that manifestation for you was in the form of a stroke and other things. How else have you been impacted by that assault? And how has it impacted your career? Because you're still active duty, yes?
Yes.
How has it impacted how you interact with your subordinates, you know, your fellow service members, how you are received by them, if they are even aware? And I know I said a lot, so
I got it.
Yeah, I got you.
Well, as far as them being aware, I mean, I keep my personal life separate. One of the things being in the military, sometimes you're guarded with what you say because in your mind and things that you saw, you be like, well, if I tell them this, now I'm going to be unfit for duty and I'm going to get kicked out. So my personal life has been my personal life. And sad to say that if we don't have a friendship outside of work, I don't deal with you. I go to work, you're my coworker. When I'm off, I gravitate towards my friends. Although they're either service members or veterans,
Right.
I gravitate towards my friends. Okay. I just keep it separate. It's just easier for me. And a lot of times you don't want them to say, well, you can't do that because we don't want to trigger anything, or we don't want this emotional state to come up. So
right. So then you become labeled as unstable or, you know, easily triggered because of an experience that, you know, was done to you, against you.
Exactly.
Right. So that is an attempt for them to use that against you.
Correct.
I just wanted to make sure that we brought that out as well. So what you're listening to are all of the effects of how military sexual trauma impacts the lives of our female veteran. They're far-fetching. It doesn't end at that incident. Actually, it begins to reshape the structure of their lives and how they interact and how society as a whole sees them. And so we really want to bring that out because we need to change that. Because by no fault of our own, you know, we're labeled because of someone's selfishness to violate us. And so I commend you for having the strength and the fortitude to be able to turn that negative thing into a positive thing. And for my listening audience, I would like you, Shonda, if there's a woman out there that has been violated and she's teetering on the edge of contemplating whether or not to end her life, what would you say to her?
Don't do it. It's not worth it. Sometimes, I don't know if you remember back in the day, the VCRs, when they had stop, play, pause, rewind.
Right.
Well, I always use that analogy. And sometimes when you're going through very hard times in life, sometimes you just press that pause button. Not stop, because life doesn't stop. You just press that pause button so you can regroup and refocus and gather your thoughts, gather yourself. And then you hit the rewind button. You go back and you think about the great times. That's what you have to do. You have to put yourself in a happy place. If you love water, think about water. Just rewind yourself into those good things, those good days. And then you press fast forward. How is this going to affect my life if I stay in this rut? How is this going to affect my life? Because we all have to realize, and it's selfish and we're all human, you're the only one that really, truly cares about yourself. No one else does. Yeah, we get
Well, not like you do.
Exactly.
Nobody can care for you like you do.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for that. And so for that woman out there that may be teetering, contemplating ending her life, thinking that she can't move beyond this, I want you to remember and hear Shonda's voice. She said to pause, to rewind, refocus, and press fast forward. For anybody, any veteran or active duty service member, female, we know that we put on that front. So I thank you for being vulnerable so that our listening audience know that they too can be vulnerable as well. And so what I wanted to ask you as well, what obstacles have you run into in trying to become stabilized or helping another female veteran try to become stabilized? How many women have you encountered during your service, if any, have disclosed that they have been assaulted?
Many. You can't even fathom how many women have experienced either sexual harassment, sexual assault within the organization.
Right.
And some women just can't deal with it. They decide that they just want to get out and not have to the uniform or the organization just reminds them of what happened to them.
Right.
So you respect it, the fact that they just want to get out.
Right.
And then others like myself, we drive on because it has to be somebody that can move forward, that you can
to be
look
the
up
example.
to. Exactly.
Right.
So I decided to drive on.
And so for those that you have encountered that, of those, if you can give a guesstimate or a percentage, how many of them attempted to prosecute or move forward, and how were they received?
I would say out of 50 women, soldiers, veterans, I would say 3% decide to move forward.
That's a very low percentage.
Yes.
And so how are they received if they attempt to? Are they supported by their command? Are they ostracized? Are they penalized? Are they forced to continue to serve alongside their perpetrator, or how are they received?
Well, we have a good system in place, the SHARP program, which came a long, long way.
Okay.
That does have the system in place. So back, I would say 10 years ago, the system was broken and gaps, but those gaps have been filled by the SHARP program.
Okay.
So the soldier doesn't have to work side by side with the perpetrator anymore. They're able to change locations, units. It's just a process.
Okay.
So this event happened to you today, for example. The process may take months or years to find out a result. Mine took 10 years to find out that they were going to be found not guilty, which surprised everyone.
Which is unacceptable.
So that being said, the victim actually more than likely get re-victimized. I mean, when you go to do resources. One of the things that I want our listeners to be aware of, when you come encounter with somebody that has been sexually assaulted, just listen. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we want to impose what you think and what you want to do. It's not your decision.
Right.
It's their decision.
Okay. So let's take a few questions from our listeners. The military teaches you to compartmentalize your tasks and issues and problems. In your case, Ms. Chandra, your ability to do that actually becomes a detriment, resulting in failed health, and your stroke is a testament to that. What did you do after this serious health care? Did you continue to not deal with the sexual trauma, or did you take the steps to address it and get it out in the open? Or in layman's terms, how did you cope? Or did you just continue to deal with it internally? And you can just break it down one at a time.
Well, after my stroke, I still couldn't realize that I had a stroke because I was, young and fabulous.
So you were in denial.
Oh, yeah, I was in denial. I was like,
right.
I was like, child.
You said, I ain't have no
Look,
stroke.
my eyebrows just a little twisted, but hey, that's all right. My cheekbone just a little high, but that's all right. I was in denial like a woo.
But you do what we as women do. We adapt and we move on. And so you said your eyebrows a little bit twisted.
Yeah, it was eyebrows.
Your cheek is just a little
bit higher. Just add some blush to it. They won't know the difference.
Right. You have a good spirit. I love it. So
the steps that I took, you always got to look out for your brothers and sisters.
Right.
So
we are a sister's keeper.
My sister told me, you need help. Straight up. You need to go talk to somebody about your problems, because, listen, I can't keep listening to the same thing over and over. And I didn't realize I used to repeat myself all the time. She said, you just said that. You just said, and I couldn't remember that I did.
What were you repeating? Like, were you repeating the...
Okay, we were about to go somewhere. I was like, okay, don't forget the tickets to the concert. By the time I go to the room to get my purse, hey, don't forget the tickets to the concert. But I had to replay everything in my mind, because after I had the stroke, I went to work, but I thought I was going to work. I went to somebody else's office, went in there, sat at somebody else's desk, trying to log on the computer. The people about to call the police on me.
Wow.
They said, ma'am, it was probation, because I was in probation at the time. Mm-hmm. It was a probation office. It just wasn't my office. My office was all the way in Fort Lauderdale. How the heck I was all the way in Miami?
Oh, my goodness.
Didn't even know how I got there.
Right.
Just kept driving.
Right. So, again, this is another aspect of how sexual trauma can affect you and the effects of that. So, because you were internally dealing with it, it caused you to have that stroke, and now you had to deal with not only the trauma and how it impacted you, but you had to deal with the effects of how the stroke changed your life. So when did you make that connection, or did you make that connection?
Say again?
The connection between the trauma and the stroke, and then...
I think I'm still trying to make the connection.
Okay. So it's an ongoing process.
It's an ongoing process. It's one day at a time.
And have you seen improvement?
Some days are better than other days. I am in counseling, praise God.
Okay.
I took that
That's
advice.
progress.
And a shout out to Miss Brenda.
Okay.
Miss Brenda say I'm a work in progress.
We all are. But I'm proud of your accomplishments. So what I want to ask you as well is, how has it impacted your interpersonal relationships?
With men?
Yes.
Ooh. Men, are you out there? Just give me a chance. Because the only man that can deal with me right now is the good Lord.
Oh, amen.
I'm a handful.
Okay.
But I can say on the forefront, face to face, oh, absolutely amazing time. But it's when I get home, like I told you, I have a detachment order, and mostly in relationships, I'll find every excuse to get out of that relationship.
Work, yeah.
It's not gonna work. So, what I did was I developed like a strip. So
can you expound on that?
So for example, if I meet a guy, I go to my strip, and I have these rules that I've developed.
Okay, your script.
Yeah, my
Gotcha.
strip.
Okay,
my
gotcha.
strip.
Gotcha.
With an R, C-R.
Yeah.
Right?
Gotcha.
Not a strip, S-T-R.
Gotcha.
Man.
Y'all know my grandma raised me. I got a pronunciation problem. Yeah, a strip. So I stick to the
script.
Visual creatures.
the rules. I stick to my rules, so they won't like me. They won't fall for me, if that makes sense. Because I don't want to have to tell them that what I'm going through, because I'm still going through it.
Okay.
Sometimes when you tell men a little bit too much, they run. They be like, oh man, this girl finna be crazy. I'm finna have all kind of problems.
Right. So it causes you to kind of
Withdraw.
Yeah.
Yes. No sleepovers, no staying over, no long relationships. It's just been
Because you don't
rough.
want to be viewed as damaged goods, right?
Absolutely.
So, again, this is another aspect of how female veterans are impacted by military sexual trauma. We choose not to disclose because we don't want to be viewed as that, especially if we feel, because some men do. I'm not going to say all men.
Right.
They feel like this is going to be too much to deal with. And they run, and to their credit, I don't fault them, but it impacts us. And then
I fought every brother that decided to turn tail and run. You coward.
well, that's a whole nother show. So let's go back to take a few more questions.
But
go ahead.
Just what he was saying is, I really think too, as healers, you gotta have that sit down talk with the individual. A lot of times we don't communicate
effectively. So
exactly.
I just wanted to let our listeners know that this episode of Michelle Speaks, If You Hide It, You Can't Heal It, is sponsored by A+ Repair Support. It's a company that helps you, the consumer, find a reputable, licensed repairman or business professional. For more information, just call A+ Repair. Support can help. There's one number for every issue you can think of, so give A+ Repair Support a call today at 904-204-1174 or 904-637-5230. So we're going to continue with the conversation, Ms. Shonda. You've shared quite a bit, and I appreciate your transparency, your honesty, your vulnerability, because I know that's something that doesn't come easy. So when do you know, or come to the point that you know you want to share if you're dealing with someone? When do you disclose?
It's really not no time frame. It's just all about how I don't know.
No answer for that.
Yeah,
right now.
it's no answer. I'll pray about it.
Okay.
And then when I get peace about it, I'll reveal it. And some of my bestest friends are males, and it's a work in progress.
Okay, we'll just leave it right there.
Yeah.
But the short answer is choosing whether or not to disclose. You just pray about it, and if you have a peace about it, then you move forward, and if you don't have a peace, you just keep it to yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for my listening audience, if there's a young lady out there wondering whether or not to disclose, if you're in a relationship or about to enter a relationship, or are desiring a relationship, this is one option that you can choose to use on whether or not to disclose.
Right. And what made it easier for me to be able to disclose it to a male has been therapy.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm an advocate for therapy. There's different types of therapy. So again, for my listening audience, therapy is not bad.
Absolutely.
You just have to find which form of therapy or a combination of therapies work for you. So I'm going to take another question from our listening audience. I've read some of the Department of Defense statistics that show that a majority of the sexual assault cases that were not prosecuted, were because either there wasn't enough proof or that the victim decided not to move forward. Shonda, do you find that this is the case with the majority of the women that either of you that you work with or have experiences with? And why do you think that women would actually not follow through with prosecuting their
I got it.
yeah. Sorry, excuses
Well,
for.
one of the things is that people are not properly trained to deal with a sexual assault victim.
I agree with that.
We had a young lady a couple years back that went to a hospital in Gainesville, Alachua County, was turned around. They didn't know what to do with her.
Say that again. They turned her around. The
She went
Gainesville
to-
VA.
3 regular hospital as well, and they turned her around. Do you know how that would make me feel as a victim? First of all, I've been
Re-victimized.
that, and well, I'm not going to say anything because obviously nobody believed me.
Right.
And it's not that they turned her around because she got raped. They didn't know how to handle or deal with it. It's like this was like their as a first experience. Oh, we can do gunshot wounds and births of babies, but you got raped?
So they actually turned her away in
Yes.
3 different facilities.
3 different
The
facilities.
military, the VA, and the regular hospital in the community.
Yes.
This is unacceptable.
And did you know, this is a little bit fact finding for our healer and lit statistics. 13,264 rape kits have been untested, and that's just Florida alone.
Right. And I'm sure that number is actually higher. I was aware of that. That's for those that are reported. And I'm sure that number is, and in fact, I know that number is higher. We had that conversation a couple of weeks back at an event called Real Talk, Real Change by E3. And that's, again, it's unacceptable. So we must initiate change. And I believe the way to do that is doing exactly what we're doing now, by listeners such as yourself or guests such as yourself that are bold enough and are courageous enough to come forward and be the voice. So again, I commend you. How many of your family members know what happened to you and the effects it has had and still has on you?
Oh, I don't want to throw nobody under the bus.
You don't have to.
But I'm gonna throw them
Okay.
I'm gonna throw them under the bus.
If you hide it, you can't heal it.
Exactly. Well, thank God years have passed and we have all developed relationships, me and my family. But at the time when it happened, it was laughter all over the phone.
Oh.
What? That didn't happen to you. Girl, quit lying. Yes, it did. So the detective had to get on the phone that says, yes, this has happened to your child, your sister, your sibling.
It's okay. Take your time.
That being said, the first court appearance, nobody showed up.
You had no support?
Nope. I was the only one in the courtroom, and when I went into the courtroom, when I tell you, if you ever been to a club that's like the first Friday, you know that thing be pumping.
Right.
That's how many people came to support the perpetrators.
And you
it was
had no
people
one.
on the balconies, they were in the hallway, people were on the elevator, and I was like, I'm the victim. I should have had front row seat. I'm all the way in the back, crunched up by somebody grandma that said, little Huzzy ain't even show up. And
Because she didn't know it was you.
Yep. And I tapped her on the shoulder and I said, yes, I am here, ma'am. So the good thing is that the judge made everybody get out except the victim, the court officials, and the perpetrators. Their family couldn't even be there. They was like, because it's not fair.
And this is the thing. This is the kind of treatment. This is the kind of attitude that must stop. Beginning with the family members and going all the way to the reporting officials that you reported to. It takes so much strength to be able to be in a courtroom full of the perpetrators' supporters and to be able to withstand the comment that was made.
Huzzy, huh? I sure did tapped her on her shoulder.
I love your spirit. I'm almost speechless because this is something that those that have been violated by military sexual trauma or sexual trauma period, endure and encounter on a daily basis. It is their reality. And that reality must change. The community, what do you feel that the VA could do better? And what do you feel that the community can do better? The court system, the legislation. What do you think can be done better to better support victims, survivors of military sexual trauma? I don't like the word victim.
First, we want to start with family. Family, regardless of however you feel about the situation, just believe that it did happen, and you support that individual, whether it's male or female. Secondly, for the courts or the government officials or law enforcement, put your biases and prejudices to the side and assist that individual. A lot of times we get caught up in what we believe and what we should do, and we don't assist. We need to assist this individual during this traumatic events, whether it happened or it did not. Now,
it's not for us to make that judgment.
Exactly.
Just
support and provide resources.
Okay.
Now, as far as the court system, I mean, this is going to take legislations after legislations after legislations. The process is so long, for one, which you can get through the process if you have the right support.
Right.
For example, Florida Compensation Bureau, Tallahassee, you have to prosecute within 72 hours to get funding. To get funding.
That needs to change.
Not only that.
So if you don't prosecute, then you
can't get the funding.
Okay.
The max is $750. So you're telling me I'm only worth $750, and that's today. So back 10 years ago, I got a check for $68.
I'm speechless. I'm angry.
And I decided to prosecute. So if you don't prosecute, you get no funding. If you don't relocate, you don't get compensated. So you're telling me I'm grounded here, rooted here.
So if you decide to relocate, then you don't get compensated?
Yeah, you do, but you have to relocate. You have to uproot where you live to move.
So your whole life has to change.
For $750. Max. Once in a lifetime. So if I get sexually assaulted twice, I don't get any compensation.
Yeah. Things need to change.
And last but not least, this is what blew my mind. If you ever committed a crime, because they do a background check. What if I did a petty theft at 17? You can't get compensated. So now you're telling perpetrators that if you ever did anything and you got caught for it, no one's going to believe you.
So not only have you been violated by the perpetrators, you're re-violated by the system. Absolutely. That's supposed to be advocating for you. And if you have any kind of a record going back to maybe even your youth, you're not able to be. You're being penalized for that, a mistake that you made earlier in your life.
Absolutely.
Which has nothing to do with you being sexually assaulted.
Absolutely.
Laws must change. Another question from our listening audience. Ultimately, the end result of the sexual trauma inflicted upon you was what? And what do you do now to keep living and keep moving on in your life?
Well, I will say this. Live today for today.
Okay.
You can't change the past. And a lot of times we like to keep going back to the past, but live today for today. Surround yourself with people, like-minded people that love you. One of the sayings that I always use: don't ever eat dinner with nobody that's not smarter than you. So put yourself in positions where there is light on the other side. People care, people love you, and get counseling. Because this is a never-ending struggle. Right. It's
and I agree. You never recover from it. You just learn how to manage it and move on. And I don't care what any therapist or anything else says different, that you can be, healed from it. It's not something that you heal from. It's something you learn how to live with and still have a quality life.
And also, too, as far as forgiving, you're not forgiving them for them. You're forgiving them for you.
That's good.
That gives you peace.
That's good.
Because it was hard for me to forgive them. But when I saw that they...
Can you say that again?
What?
Forgiveness.
Forgiving them.
Yes, how you're forgiving. Why you're forgiving. It's not for them.
For them, it's for you.
Okay.
Oh, I had that stroke now.
Yeah,
you got to repeat it over
I
here.
got you.
But,
So how long did it take you to forgive, do you think?
well, it was a reality when they got found out guilty.
Okay.
So when I left out that courtroom, I said, who am I to judge? God forgave them. He forgives us all the time. Things that people don't see that we do, like being stubborn or selfish. Those are just as equally as what they did to me. But people can't see that, so it's not like a punishable by man. So I realized that day when I walked out that courtroom, I said, God gave them a second chance. Why can't I? And I forgave them, and I've moved on, and my life has been so much better after that time. But it didn't take me 10 years to forgive them. It just took confirmation 10 years later, because after the traumatic event, I met with one of the perpetrators' mom, and she came to me, and she absolutely was in tears. She said, I don't know what happened that night. She said, but I will tell you, you're a very strong woman. This is the perpetrator's mom.
Wow.
And she said, but it's my job to be here and support my son, regardless of what he did. And I'm looking like, what?
What do you say to that?
What, mom?
Like, where's
Dad?
my support? Right.
Yes.
So how did you feel in that instant, in that moment?
I was just like, man, they gonna need some prayer. That's all I can say. They gonna need some prayer, because I'm not a mom, but I could imagine how any parent would feel that their child is going through anything like that, knowing that she's a woman and got sisters. Like, what if that happened to me, or what if that happened to my daughter? So they need Jesus.
Thank you for that. So as an active military service member, how has your experience affected how you feel about your service to our country? Honestly. That was a deep sigh.
She's still sighing.
You knew I had a stroke. Could you repeat that question? How has my what? Woo. Well, all I can say to the listeners, audience, healers, who's ever out there that's still in the military, serve your country is a great thing, and it's very beneficial for you. And even though one of the things I will say is that life is going to be life. You're going to have your ups and downs, and it's nothing you can do about it. You can't change time. You can't stop time. So continue to serve your country. Now, how has it affected me? Well, I use everything to my advantage. Not in that type of way, like I'm not using sexual assault to my advantage. That's not what I'm saying. Right. I'm using the military for my advantage.
Okay.
Being in the military gives us
benefits.
What you call it? So many resources. I was gonna try to be fancy and use a big word. Michelle, I'm gonna leave that one for you.
Anyway.
But we have a big bowl. We're gonna use a big bowl of resources out there for just being a veteran. I mean, female veterans. Just the services and the benefits that we get. So fathom. Ooh, I don't know how to pronounce that. What is it?
Plethora.
Y'all get real fancy. Yeah, a plethora. A plethora of resources. So I recently got promoted in the military.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, so I'm not finna let the devil is a liar.
Well,
I'm not finna let
and
my
the truth
past
ain't in 'em.
right affect my dreams and my goals.
Right. So what has been or is the secret or key to your success and stability?
Makeup. We all like makeup.
Yes, we do.
I started a makeup line for abused and battered women, rape
What is it
victims. It's called maquillage. It means makeup in French, and it's a cosmetics for cause.
What is the 738?
Oh, we finna get all of it. Okay. So if you ever see my logo on any social media, any billboards coming to near you, the 738. So 8 was the beginning. 8 was the beginning of life.
New beginnings. Yeah.
Yes, of
Creation.
life, of creation.
Yeah.
And the 3, if you all anybody that knows about the cycle of abuse, well, at stage 3, I realized that I was being abused. I didn't have to go through the whole cycle
To
again and
realize it.
again.
Right.
And then 7 was, I said I was done. Completion. Over.
Okay.
Yes.
That sounds good. So, tell me what one of your most defining moments was, and then what is one takeaway that you want our audience to come away with, and a call to action?
My defining moment has been starting this makeup line. No one knows the pain behind the shade, and makeup has been therapy for me. You meet a lot of women that have been through certain things, but when you put that shadow on them, they lashes, they can walk and you don't even know what they got going on.
Changes their whole walk, right?
Attitude as well.
Well,
Fancy now.
they start sitting in the back a little taller,
Batting their eyes.
a little higher, got a little more pep in their step, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, what is a takeaway and a call to action for our listening audience? What is one thing you want them to come away with, and then what is a call to action? Like, what would you want them to do going forward?
Call to action. Identify that it happened to you.
Okay.
Don't be in denial. It happened.
Okay.
And the takeaway or the action, get counseling. Your friends and family, they have their own biases, prejudices, judges, but get in counseling, get a good therapist, and talk to them about what's going on with you. Reveal the things that you're keeping inside. Bring it all out.
Okay, good deal. So, Miss Shonda Roberts, how can people find you to support your cause or your organization?
I'm on 738 Maquillage Collection, Instagram and Facebook.
Can you spell that?
MAQUILLAGECOLLEX, fancy, ION, and then www.738-maquillage.com is the website where you can go buy products.
Okay, email?
Ooh. www.738collections, COLLECTIONS @gmail.com.
Okay, so there you have it for my listening audience. Ms. Shonda Roberts has shared her experience. She shared how she has been impacted by military sexual trauma. She has shared how she has been able to move forward and turn that negative into a positive, even to the point of being able to forgive her perpetrators, her violators, even after they were found not guilty, even with having videotape as evidence. That is a great testament to the strength that she has within. And for my listening audience, if you remember nothing else, I want you to remember this. The first thing you have to do is not being in denial. You must acknowledge that it did happen. The second thing you need to do is to get counseling. Whatever therapy works for you, find what works for you and stick to it, and know that it's going to be a continual journey of healing, and that healing is a process, it's not a destination. And so again, I just want to thank you again, Ms. Shonda, for coming on and being such a powerful, impactful guest talking about military sexual trauma. You've been listening to Michelle Speaks with me, your host, Michelle Portier. So I want to thank you again, Ms. Shonda, for giving your experience and insight on this most difficult topic. So tune in to us every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All of our shows are available in our podcast directory for free 24/7 by going to 180radionow.com/podcast or click the podcast link in the menu on the homepage. Click the Michelle Speaks logo and you can access all of our previously aired shows. You can also listen directly on the 180radionow.com website by clicking the Listen Live button at the top of the homepage, or go to our Facebook page and click the Use App button. Also, listen through our web browser on your PC, tablet, or phone. on every major internet radio directory. TuneIn, Streama, Radio.com, Screamer Radio, just to name a few. It is our sincere prayer that what you've heard today has blessed you and provided you with information you can use to help you in your situation or someone else's. Tune in again next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we get to the heart of the matter. Because if you hide it, you can't heal it.
We love you guys.
Peace.